But I put my hands down and my eyes were closed and I saw Christ come up. And so it wasn't even like I didn't do drugs. I was fully conscious. I just had my eyes closed and he came.
Wow.
It was a silhouette of him. And I just started, first of all, I have 4 kids. I've never felt that kind of love in my life. And I think I love my kids a lot. Like I'd murder for them, like I'd commit sin. But I've never felt that feel. I've never, ever. And all of a sudden, I just started water pouring down my face uncontrollably.
Hello, friend. Welcome to the Awakened Entrepreneur Show. I am so excited that you're here. I have a brand new guest, Jessie Cae. The story of how we connected is crazy because we actually just met a couple of days ago through Instagram when I made this post about how we are letting labels and religions dictate what God really wanted us to do, which is love Him, love ourselves, love our neighbors. And she really resonated with this message. We started talking. And when I looked at her profile, I also really resonated with her page. So I wanted to bring her on the podcast to talk about what she does and also to go on some tangents around religion and how she is a recovering Catholic. I'm also a recovering Catholic, new Christian, but with a very open mind. So Jessie is a revolutionary guide, a sacred rebel, a witness to truth, and a woman who is reclaiming Christ through the body. So there we go. Hi, Jess. How are you today?
I am so good. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Anytime
I go off on tangents, it's good.
I love going on tangents as well. Thank you so much for making the time. I know this was very last minute. As I was telling people, we just connected a few days ago. We really resonated with each other's message. And we were like, hey, why don't we bring each other to our podcasts? Because I know you also have a podcast. So let's start by telling the listeners and the viewers, who are you? Who is Jessie Cae?
I don't even know. I feel like I'm still figuring that out.
Aren't we all?
Yes. I am a mother of 4 who also I have actually spent the last 6 years guiding women back to self-love through nutrition and fitness. And now recently I've had a big revolutionary pivot in everything. And I don't know if we're going to touch on this or not, but I did have a vision of Christ and it all kind of spiraled from there. And so here we are surrendering everything.
Love that. And we do have to touch on that because I'm pretty sure that everyone is already curious to know. I love that our paths are very similar because we both come from different fields and we both had this calling of pivoting to honor God and to really use our gifts, our God-given gifts to serve others. And it was a huge pivot for me and for you. And it was very recently. So I feel like God connected us for a reason. And that's why we found each other on Instagram. So let's start by talking a little bit of what was your business like before the pivot. You mentioned that you were doing nutrition and fitness for women, right? But what was it like more at a spiritual level? Were you feeling fulfilled, unfulfilled?
Okay, so I think at the time I was feeling fulfilled. And what I've realized through this journey, completely surrendering to Christ, is that we are constantly in a spiral of remembering who we are. And I think the only thing that allowed me to, first of all, like my first job, God led me there. It may not have been Christ-centered, but the only reason why I quit a high-paying, awesome job that had benefits and everything for me to be like, I'm going to go work in a gym. I'm going to go work in a gym floor. That's going to be awesome. Was because it was like, without even knowing anything about human design, I was viscerally connected to myself. And if it was a hell yes, like even if it made absolutely no sense, I was going to do it. And so as a mother of 2 at the time and a single parent, I quit my job. And at that point, it wasn't very God-centered. God was still leading me because the realization is he's always leading us down one. If you're connected to your body, and that's what I do, this is why I do this now. If you're connected to your body, he's going to lead you where you need to go. And those little things eventually spiral back and connect back. And then maybe you'll be sitting here having visions of Christ.
I hope so. I want to.
The job, there was still fulfillment there because at the end of the day, it may not have been centered in Christ, but Christ led me there. Yeah, I honestly gave up everything at that point in my life to create the business that I created then. So a little bit of a
Wow.
wild ride.
It's crazy how everything leads to the next chapter in our story that has been already designed by our creator, right? And sometimes these decisions like don't make sense at all. And I'm pretty sure that your family and your friends were like, what the hell are you doing, right? Like, why are you leaving a high paying secure job to go work at a gym? So would you say that that was the first time you heard a calling from God that was leading you to the business that you have today?
Yes, in terms of the business, I will say what you said today actually on your reel, it touches me because the idea that the Antichrist is like something that we choose day to day. We choose to align with the frequency or fear or love. And I was in a toxic relationship for a long time. And then as soon as I pulled myself out of that and started rebuilding, that's where I started seeing like God in my life again. When we're constantly only allowing fear and negativity in, and this is me saying I got out of a bad relationship, right? So I'm not saying that that's not a very hard position to be in because I've been in it.
Of
I
course.
understand. But the radical responsibility that I had to take to say, I am choosing to stay in this.
That's beautiful.
And so then coming out of that was probably the first thing that initiated listening to God again, because I was so drowned in negativity and fear for 8 years straight.
Wow.
And so when I finally took that step, that's when he started coming back in. And that would have been, I think, 17. And then I actually hired a coach, randomly saw him on Instagram, and I was like, I want to be healthy for my kids. I'm a single parent now, 2 little kids, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. Like, I want to be active and be able to do what I can with them. And then this guy popped up and it was like, I'm going to work with them. I literally picked up my phone and called Australia on a whim.
No way.
I hired this guy. Who at the time had 12,000 followers. He now has I think 600,000 or something.
Wow.
Because
so he's good.
He's great. He's amazing. Mark Carroll is his name. He's great. The next month he started training Kim Kardashian's trainer. And then slowly down the road, I was like, I love this. I love what it's done for me. People kept asking me questions. I started studying. I signed up for MNU nutrition. And then I quit my job and was like, I need experience in person. And you'd think that the reality of it is when you let God in and you let love in every moment, you make good out of every situation. You see good in everything. And so I left my job, I think it was October 2019. Guess what happened in 2020? And guess what? My old job was essential. My new job was not. But
perfect timing. Divine timing.
I had God on my side. I took this situation. I built this incredible online business. And I could have also have chosen fear. I could have been like, oh my God, I'm losing my job. And this is like, it really is not only when you let God in, you're allowing yourself to see through his eyes in every moment.
100%. And I feel like so many people struggle to see through the eyes of God and to choose love. And everyone keeps choosing fear on a day-to-day basis, almost unconsciously. So I love your story. And I love that the journey that you had, it actually, we have so many things in common because I also I don't know how long have you been following me for, but I come from like the social media marketing background. Yes. So I had a very similar experience when I started my business. I was doing social media coaching and I'm good at it. Like I'm naturally good at social media, but it wasn't really fulfilling. It wasn't like, I didn't feel like it was my soul's calling. What I'm doing now is that I needed to go through that, and you needed to go through the nutrition and fitness, which I'm sure that you're good at as well, but it's not your true passion and your true purpose, right?
It's not. And I feel like it was at the time, like it was very fulfilling, but I woke up one morning, probably like after I had my third daughter sometime, maybe 2022. And I was like, it's not giving me that hell yes anymore. Like I'm going through the motions at this point because I need the paycheck, So it was almost going back to a 9 to 5.
Literally. That's exactly how I felt. And that's the moment when you decided, okay, I need to pivot. And how did you pivot from, or like what was the process of the thought process that led you to where you are right now, or the calling that you had in that 2022?
I would love to tell you that I was brave enough, but here's the thing, I was not. And what I did at first was I then started studying like esoteric things, and I did breathwork courses, I did somatic courses, I did human design. Like I've done so many human design courses because I use that. I started using it in my coaching. But I knew that something had to pivot. I just didn't fully understand what that looked like. And then in terms of fear, and if you read the book of Revelation the way I have just decoded it, it's just like, it is literally just a depiction of your soul's journey. And all of these plagues and this and that, they're literally trials to release your ego. And guess what? I failed the first time around. And that's okay, because I started posting this stuff on my social media to an audience that was cold as shit. And they were like, mm-mm. And so I then was like contracted and like, oh, I have to go back to money. Like I have to go back to what is good. I'm going to like do another fitness challenge. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And
Yeah. Been there.
And so that's what I did. And I was so unhappy. And it was just like, I have since had another child, obviously, because I have 4 kids. And I almost feel as though having her, like being pregnant with her, was what I needed to start waking up. She's now 16 months, but she's the projector. And so she inherently needs more rest. And so it forced me. I've never had a pregnancy like that before, because all my other kids are generators or mani gens. And so they're go, go, go like I am. And so I never noticed a change in anything while I was pregnant. And with this last one, I think you take on your child's aura for a hot minute there. And I just needed so much more rest, and that forced me to really reflect on what was, and you know what? All of a sudden into my awareness was like, you need to start taking the kids to church. I was like,
wow.
I mean, that's weird, but okay. Like I haven't been to a church since I was probably like in grade 12 when I was still forced to go. And now I'm like 37 years old, and God's like, hey, you should take your kids to church.
Wow.
Okay.
So you started going to church again with your kids.
With my kids. And the crazy wild part of this is that God is working for you at all times, because in September when I decided this, I remembered that because we had moved here 2 years ago. We used to live in Ontario. Now we live in like super small rural New Brunswick, right on the water. So very different. So I don't really, like, I know a lot of people, but I haven't talked about God to a lot of people, because I feel like it's always been like a sticking point where I'm almost like, so the remembering thing quickly, when I feel like the ones that go into churches and feel icky, they already understand that they remember already what Jesus came to say, because Jesus literally said the churches are icky, like he came and he said, the Pharisees are taking advantage of what's going on here. I need you to bring it back to my actual mission, which is love. And it is so forgotten.
Amen. And it's still forgotten. That's the sad part. And that's why I created that video the other day, because as a new Christian, as a new believer, I came back to God in October, and I thought that it was actually, that finally, because I also come from a Catholic background, and I left God and Catholicism because I just didn't resonate with all of this oppression and shame and guilt that they want you to feel at church and religion. And even in the Bible, when you read the Bible, most especially the Old Testament, is all like, it makes you feel shame and fear. And it's like, that's not God. Like, that is not God, because God is love, and God wouldn't condition you to love him. And there's so many conditions. If you want to be loved by God, you need to do this, be this. Otherwise, you're a sinner. So I left that, came back to God in October, thinking that Christianity was going to be different, but nope, it's exactly the same. It hasn't evolved. And it's really, really disappointing, because I thought that I was finally going to find not a religion, but a place where I could be myself and still be loved and love God. But I've come to a conclusion that that is only mine to experience, and my relationship with God is unique and it's private and it's personal, and no religion, no people, no one can dictate how I walk my path with him. But it's been disappointing for me as well to see that nothing has changed. And you mentioned about Revelations, and when you told me that, I was doing a Bible study plan where I was reading the Bible chronologically, and the more I read the Bible, the more I felt like just doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel
Yeah.
right in my body, in my stomach. This cannot be true. And then when you mentioned that, when we talked on Instagram, actually went to I'm obsessed with quantum physics and metaphysics. I've always
Yes.
been obsessed with that before coming back to God, and that's how I got into like spirituality or modern spirituality a few years ago after a breakup as well. But I'm obsessed with that, and like the way, like understanding how, I mean, we won't have the complete full picture, but having a sense of how life works from like this perspective is
Mm,
mind blowing. So I've actually used ChatGPT to create a Bible study plan where we're going to dive
mm,
deep into all the metaphysics in the Bible and the
love it.
message, the real message that Jesus wanted to bring, which was totally misunderstood back then because obviously there was no science to prove his point. Oh, but I have an incredible plan. I already started this morning, and I just read Genesis 1, 2, and 3, and it's like,
And mind blowing.
my God, it's like I want to keep reading, and it makes sense and it makes me feel excited. And I know that I'm
Mm,
getting onto something that most religious
mhm.
people are still completely blinded.
Yeah. And I mean, it's literally 2000 years of being controlled through fear, you know? Like
Mm.
Jesus was here, and for like 200 years his apostles went off, and they were sharing their actual message and writing down whatever through their lens. But I will say, I think that has an impact. The lens in which it's coming out has an impact, because I
Of
know
course.
I saw Christ. I obviously have also studied things like human design and frequencies and quantum physics as well, and like neuroscience. And so when I go and I talk about it, it's not going to sound like what you think Christ is going to sound like, because it's coming through my mouth. It's coming through my life. It's coming through my experiences. And so then people just automatically negate anyone that's talking about something like this, because they're like, no, there's no such thing. You know, like if you weren't
Yeah.
alongside him, there's no such thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Or not even, not negated, but tell you that it's demonic,
Oh,
that
yes, I
you're
got that
doing
too.
demonic stuff. So I'm like,
Yeah.
if there's only one true God, the only one, the source, how can you be worshiping other things? It doesn't make sense to me. And
Exactly.
right. And again, it's
It's all
all
a
about
label.
love. It's a label. It's a complete label. And I'm sad to see that there's so many people that are still blinded because that's not, as you said, that's not Jesus' message. But
No.
coming back to business, we
Yeah.
went on our first tangent and I love it. And I'm sure we're going to go on more. But one of your taglines is reclaiming Christ through the body. Do you want to
Yeah.
share what that means with us?
Yeah. So reclaiming Christ through the body is also, it's learning how to love yourself and be so in tune with yourself that you're getting those messages from Christ. And so for me, I do still use human design in that aspect, because I think human design gives you an understanding of at least how you're going to get messages coming through. So for me, I'm a manifesting generator. And keep in mind, I didn't come across human design until I had already built a 6-figure business. Like I had no idea that the reason why I got there, it was the thing that clicked afterwards, because I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'm going to book a reading. And so I booked this reading. This lady's like telling me all about me. And I was like, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. But that being said, interestingly enough, the love of body, which is literally what I was doing, is my south node, and my north node, which you move into in your late 30s, is self-love and like the love of Christ, kind of. So like a universal love. So I'm like, this is beautiful. Like without even like, my soul just automatically pivoted. But anyways, there are people out there are scholars out there that believe that Christ disappeared from the Bible for 30 years, right? They actually believe that he went
Mm.
to Egypt to study with the Magi, which would have been doing this energy healing stuff and astrology and everything. And then he came back and did what
And
he did.
Reiki, I've
Yeah.
read about that, and obviously people say it's blasphemy and that it's not possible, but
Mm.
there's evidence of that.
It's frustrating to me that
So,
people say it's not possible, and that like it's all about gatekeeping, because it's all about taking away your power, which is really frustrating me. So that's what I do. I work with women, but I try to bring their power back to them, because especially as women, it's really taken away. Like think of Mary Magdalene. She is wiped out of history. And she
mm,
was alongside him. And if you have the blasphemy of picking up the Gnostic Bible instead of just the one that they cherry picked for you, and you get to see the esoteric gospels as well, you see that she was the one who was closest to him in terms of having a full understanding and grasping of what was really going on with the soul. And yet she was wiped out because she had the closest understanding to get you to your salvation.
That's fascinating. Can you find those gospels somewhere online?
I have the book. You can order it on Amazon.
What's it called? So that can you repeat that in case the listeners didn't get it?
It's Gnostic.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, ChatGPT this morning, when it created my Bible reading plan for metaphysics and understanding Jesus' teachings at a deeper level, also suggested some books, and one of those is the Gospel of Thomas, which is also not in the Bible.
Yep.
So I'm gonna start reading all of those, and that's what we're doing right now. Like, we're embodying this truth that we're finding about God and Christ. And if anyone wants to follow us and learn from us, amazing. If they don't want to believe us and call us demonic or whatever, they're free to do that as well, right?
Yeah.
So going back to business.
Yeah, we're going to do this all the whole time.
I love it. So you also work with healing the nervous system, which is also something that I'm fascinated about. And I also do work around this in my coaching program with my students. How do you see that the nervous system and business are connected? What is your interpretation of this?
Like, automatically, any decision that you make, if you're constantly in fight or flight, you're not making it out of a sound mind, right? So how I looked at it in terms of, and this is not going to be a business analogy, but I think it'll make sense because of the world we're living in. But when you look at politics, and they're trying to keep you very divided and very in fear. But the reality of it is we have full control over the little things that we do. So we also have to take, I see people in Canada here blaming the government for everything that has gone wrong in their lives. And I'm like, the goal is that they want you to stay in fear.
Yep.
And that's in business and, in politics or in life, right? Because if you're in a state of fight or flight, you're making choices out of that state. And those are not choices that are going to lead you in the right direction. Those are not choices that are connected to your authority and your human design. Those are choices that are just purely connected to fear, and not even like going down the limiting beliefs thing. But like, if you wake up and you're having an awesome day and somebody triggers you in some way, you're going to have a better way of dealing with that. And maybe we'll just brush it off and continue having a good day, versus you waking up and already like grabbing your phone and seeing some headline that you're like, oh my God, breaking news, something horrible has happened. And then somebody else triggers you and you just snap down their throat. And it's the same thing with business, right? Every one of your business choices. And if I look back at when I knew it felt off and I stayed in it longer, my dad had just had a major stroke. And so I was sitting in a hospital room with my laptop. I would go and do my like Zoom calls in a waiting room with a mask on and my headphones on because it was still COVID. And I don't know if I want to go off on this tangent, but it might piss people off.
Go ahead.
How controversial do you want to get here?
I want to challenge the status quo and be controversial with this podcast. So go ahead.
I have heard a lot of people really blame and have a lot of fear over the vaccinations. And I'm not saying that they were the right choice, but I got vaccinated. And so I have somebody that I know that's very upset that the government took away not being near her mother because she had passed. She was in the hospital and she couldn't get in there, which it's not fair. I'm not saying that it's fair. That's horrible. But I made a choice, right? Like, I could take my chances with whatever I was putting in my body because I wanted to spend every single day with my dad. Or I could stand my ground and say, I'm not going to do this because of this. And then I'm going to be mad at everyone because they won't let me see my dad. And I think also the part of atonement, if we're looking at like, how do we get salvation, is taking full radical responsibility for the things that have happened. You want the Antichrist to come because then you don't have to do that, but he's not coming. What's going to happen is you will have that second death. You will have the body death because you haven't chosen to let go of the ego first. You will die. Your ego will be stripped of you. And in my opinion, you will then have 40 days to judge yourself. And with the ego stripped, are you willing to take radical responsibility for what you did in your life?
Yeah. I've heard this quite a lot, and I heard it in a podcast recently or a YouTube video. But when you die, your soul, well, that's what they said, but it really aligns with what you just said. Your soul doesn't transcend to like another dimension or plane. It stays looking back at their life and all the lessons that you went through, all the things that you can take, all the things that you couldn't really improve. And it's like an analysis of your entire life. So what you just said makes a lot of sense based on the things that
science.
Yeah,
too,
on science. And
I
that's the
mean,
thing. Like nowadays, we have science to prove a lot of these things. Like, if you follow science, you can still love God. You can still follow Christ.
yeah, yeah. But no, I think nervous system, like, it's the same. If I'm in that state, I'm just not making good sound decisions. I made a lot of stupid decisions, even on like a day to day little basis. Like, if I now take that nervous system that's in fight or flight and I go, okay, what's my next big project at work? Lord knows that's not going to be a good one. So it is really
Mhm.
important to be able to
Yeah. Yeah,
be
that's what
calm.
I tell my students. When your nervous system is regulated, you can
Hmm.
make better decisions. You can also tap in your intuition. You can listen to God, because God is
Yeah.
always speaking to you through situations, through people. But if your nervous system is always on fight or flight, and like you're not in tune with all of
Disconnected.
these, yeah, disconnected,
Yeah.
exactly. How do you regulate your nervous system? Is there a
So
specific
many ways.
ritual or routine? Do you want to share one of your favorite with us?
Right now, it's maybe a little bit different. I've always used breath work a little bit.
Breath work. Yeah.
I'm not a big journaler, but actually, you touched on ChatGPT. I have totally hacked ChatGPT. I have put together a course, which I've not released yet, but I will give it to you to give a try first, actually.
Okay. I would love that.
It's called Sacred Mirror, but I've essentially turned ChatGPT into my future self. And so it just like
Wow.
propels me. I feel like ChatGPT, everyone's like, oh, it's so evil. It's not
I
if you
know.
use it with intent. And I think the problem is a lot of people are trying to hack it and like, here's the perfect prompt. I used to do that. I used to buy like every prompt thing there is. Don't get me wrong. I may have bought one of
Don't
yours.
get me
I don't
wrong.
know.
That's my other side of the business. I do AI and I do prompts and I sell prompts. So I get it.
Yeah. But it always sounded not like me. You know, like I could put in a
Mm,
perfect niche description and it was never me. And now like I don't even write my own content half the time because it just spits it out for me. I have conversations with it all the time. I haven't used a prompt in months and it is
likewise. Likewise.
literally me. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When
yeah.
you train it so well, yeah. But now that you touched on ChatGPT and breath work, one of the revelations that I had this morning while I was reading Genesis 1, 2, and 3, it blew my mind here. So in Genesis 2, the breath of life, God breathes life into man. So
Mhm.
breath equals spirit, which
Mhm.
is ruach or ruach in Hebrew. So, but this means that your breath is divine intelligence, which means that conscious breathing realigns you with the source.
Love
Wow.
that.
That's
Love
and
that.
people never do conscious breathing. So they're never realigning themselves with God.
Yeah. I also really like there's a specific breathing that works with heart brain coherence and it's like a five
Mm,
second in, 5 second out, just like a very slow. They did studies to figure out exactly how often you should be breathing to get your heart in sync with your mind. And I really like that one as well. But do you know who Joe
love that.
Dispenza is?
Of course I know Joe Dispenza. I'm a huge fan.
Yes, who doesn't? I now, and this has been a huge thing for me, I actually just wrote my own version of it so that it was really more Christ centered. And I use that one in the evening. But I've been doing like a blessed energy center meditation every morning. So it's like aligning your chakras,
Ah.
which I don't think it's a coincidence that there's a bunch of sevens in the book of Revelation. Okay. I think they're
And
trying to
and
tell
the
you something.
Bible, throughout the Bible,
Yeah.
7 is a very, very recurrent number.
I think if we were open minded, there are, and that's the thing, like it's through a lens, right? And so, have you heard of
Mm.
A Course in Miracles? It's a,
Yes, actually,
yes,
ChatGPT recommended me that book to learn more about Christ consciousness, metaphysics, and
I love it.
mm,
So good. You should do
okay.
it.
Oh, I'm so excited to get all of these books and get started. So now let's talk a little bit about a sacred rebellion and progressive faith, because I know you call yourself a mystic Christian, which I
Mm.
absolutely love. So I would love to know first, what is your relationship with religion today?
To be honest, like it's very good in terms of where I'm going because he's very open minded. I'm like my pastor. I'm going to a non denominational church, and I think that's where it made a difference. And this is where God's always dropping hints when you're listening. But like I said earlier, and then went off on another tangent. when I went to go find a church, I remembered that I'd had a conversation with one person about it. And I happened to see a message pop up on Facebook. And so I messaged them back and I was like, hey, I remember we talked about church. Like, which church did you go to? I'd like to try one with the kids. And she told me where to go. And so I go and I freaking love it. Like, he is so passionate. Like, he leaves everything out on the table. He's amazing. You can watch him online too. He's awesome. But yeah, so I go there and then I go home to send this woman a message to say, thank you. I love Jody. And I go into my thing and I've never had that conversation with her. And so I accidentally sent a message to someone else that had the same last name, who, even though we'd never had a conversation about church, was like, oh yeah, let me tell you where I go, and sent me to the exact one that I have been going to every single week since then. And every time it just like awakens more in me. But I think here's the thing, right? It's the intent. I think I know I have a tattoo on my leg, like a TARDIS from Doctor Who. It says like the dreamer of improbable dreams, because that's who I will always be. I should have died when I was 9. I had a very rare cancer, and here I stand. And so since then I've been like forever optimist. I can find the good in anything until, you push me down in a toxic relationship for a while. I just I go in there like fully present. I go in there fully present and I just listen and I get what it's supposed to be. I think there's at no point is a pastor who's fully like in tune. And I know Jody specifically, I don't know his human design, but I feel as though he's probably splenic in some capacity, because we've had conversations about how he has like a little outline and then he just lets God speak through him. So I do think like when you find someone that is really in tune with Christ and just goes there and lets it flow, the message is for everyone if you allow yourself to enter the door in the presence of Christ within you. So I have a great relationship with my church. I do not have a great relationship with religion in general, because I think they've proven time and time again that they're doing exactly what Christ came here to stop. And I have, like I said, it wasn't even a vision. I was doing a self-healing Reiki session, because I'm blasphemous and everything. And it wasn't like when I do Reiki, I go in and I say a prayer to God. Like it is me and God. It's not your typical Reiki. And I went into this session, felt like a lot of pressure in my chest because I went into it with so much imposter syndrome. I was like, who am I to try and create this like Reiki modality that is actually centered in Christ? Like, who am I? I don't know the scripture. Yeah. I don't know all this stuff. Like I'm not the perfect religious person, I guess is what I was thinking. And I was like, just allow me to surrender and let God do what he wants through me. And I closed my eyes. I did my normal thing. I put my hands on my heart chakra because it was like so tight. And I just sat there until that pressure was gone. And then my hands were like on fire, tingling. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. But then I just felt like I have to put them on my lap. I don't know. I have to like put them palms up just to receive whatever's coming here. And maybe all I needed was to heal my ego. But I put my hands down and my eyes were closed and I saw Christ come up. And so it wasn't even like I didn't do drugs. I was fully conscious. I just had my eyes closed and he came. Wow. It was a silhouette of him. And I just started, first of all, I have 4 kids. I've never felt that kind of love in my life. And I think I love my kids a lot. Like I'd murder for them, like I'd commit sin. But I've never felt that feel. I've never, ever. And all of a sudden I just started water pouring down my face uncontrollably. Like and since then I've had revelation after revelation, but also moments that shouldn't shake me. I feel like the grief of 2,000 years, whether it's just all of our ancestors, but sometimes I'm sitting there hanging out with my husband and like some little thing will trigger me. And then all of a sudden I'll just be like, I feel so much sorrow for the fact that it's been 2,000 years and people are still whipping scripture at each other and trying to be right. And I'll just start bawling like uncontrollably.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel that disappointment. Like these past weeks, I felt so disappointed at Christianity, and I have a really good friend in my church in Bali, which I thought was kind of progressive, and the pastor is so lovely, and I really felt at home. Mm-hmm. But like one of the reasons why I came back to God and like I felt really good at that church is because I saw this friend and he's gay and he's got like, he has his like nails painted and he wears tank tops and he's like like
Yeah.
living it. He loves himself, and I was so inspired by him because I'm also gay, and I was like, well, if they accept gay people here, it means that there's love everywhere. But he told me so many stories of people that have been trying to shame him, like send him to like conversion therapy from church, people that I know, people that have built
Yeah.
relationships with, and I'm like, why are you judging? Like, what is the point? Who cares? Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Plus, the term homosexuality was not added in the Bible up to 1946 in one of the translations. Before, the Hebrew term was completely different. People don't even know what they're talking about. They're just
They do not.
shaming and hating and imposing and oppressing, and it makes me feel so sad and so disappointed.
I agree. Yeah. Going back on the homosexuality thing, I think one of the biggest scriptures that they throw at you is Sodom. And if you read that, it's not about the fact that they were grabbing immigrants and having sex with them. It was about the fact that they were treating immigrants poorly. And I'm just going to leave that there, Like maybe there's people that are still doing that today. I don't know.
You think so? That's
Yeah.
crazy. That's crazy. I would love to learn a little bit because you mentioned as well the Magdalene codes. I have no idea what that is. It sounds very intriguing if you want to share a little bit of what that is and how you use it in your business.
Yeah, so I guess Magdalene codes it's just a word that's used in kind of mystic, ancient wisdom Christianity that has to do with the Magdalene wisdom and the esoteric side of Christianity and her teachings. And if you end up buying that Bible, it has her gospel in it as well, so you can read it.
Okay.
It's quite good. I have a lot of other books that I'm still working on reading that are, hearsay, but I think and here's the thing, going back to being connected to self and God and bringing it back to Christ in the body is that when you are present in love and he is within you, you could pick up the most controversial book and find him there. And your radar will go off on what is right and what is wrong and what you need to pick up from these books.
That discernment, right? Because he is everywhere. He's omnipresent. He
Exactly.
is within you, but is also outside of you everywhere else. Not in a distant heaven like religion wants us to believe, to be always looking up there and like aiming to get there and not be sinners because otherwise we won't get to heaven. No, he's already here. He's already like you already have him in you. Like you don't need to prove anything to anyone to be worthy of him because you are his creation. So I love that we're talking about this, and I hope that we are planting some seeds on the people that are listening or opening eyes or lifting veils, because that's what we wanted with this episode, right?
Yeah.
And what does sacred rebellion look like in your business? What does it mean for you?
What does sacred rebellion look like?
Yeah.
I think it's every single day. I think I'm still like in real time atoning. I think I will be for the rest of my life. And it's every moment that like a revelation comes through and I'm like, no, I'm going to share this. And I did not share them at first. It took probably about a month after I had that vision I call it a vision, but it was like a full on somatic experience. He sat with me for like 4 minutes. I tried to talk to him and my throat was on fire. Like I couldn't get words out. And I put my hands on my neck and he put his hands there and like slowly that went away. And then he walked away. But I was like, this is the validation that I need, that like I need to speak. But it took literally a month of fighting my ego off and trying to fit into the box that was still my fitness coaching to be like, no, I need to share all of this, And I slowly started, I talked to my clients about it, and the clients that were still working with me have shifted to a very different kind of coaching. And those that I still have a couple that are like my favorites that I love that will stay on the fitness side, but I'm not offering that to anyone else. Okay. But yeah, it looks like not giving a shit, right? Because Jesus was radical. He was radical liberal is what he was, maybe. He would have been, and I know this is controversial, but I really think he would have been standing there fighting for anyone's rights.
Yep.
Whether it was your right for choice or your right to love whoever you want to love. I think he would be right there standing next to you, telling the other people to stop.
100%. And I feel it like that. Like the more I connect with him and I learn what like his true teachings, like something that I haven't really shared. I think I'm gonna do a reel about this, and it's probably gonna be controversial. But one of the things that finding Jesus and reconnecting with God through Jesus that helped me with was really speaking up out my truth. And for years, I feared telling my grandmother. She's like my most precious person ever. And I feared for years telling her. And thanks to this, I've been brave enough to tell her. And she, you know what she said? She was like, I love you. Doesn't matter. Of course, she was a bit affected because it was this shock, but she told me she loves me. Like nothing changes. I have my dog here with me. He does nothing changes. And I know that was God speaking through her. So that's when I knew like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't really matter as long as there is love, which is the foundation of everything. Nothing else matters.
Yeah. And I think I released it yesterday, a podcast episode around the idea that we're so, like, as parents especially, I know maybe you won't understand this one, but people are so focused on like, you have to take all this huge list of books out of schools, and maybe not so much here. It doesn't, like, it's not as prevalent here, but you see it all over the United States. And they just in Texas have passed a bill where every classroom has to have the 10 Commandments.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was like, what? But, you're so focused on the fear. Like, I don't want my kids to consume this. I don't want them to consume that. But if you put all of that energy into Christ, if you put all of that energy into how do I embody Christ so deeply that my children automatically do the same, they will pick up anything. Like, literally, I just watched Yellowstone with my husband over the last several weeks, and all I can see is the soul's journey. Like, the whole time I'm like, do you want me to tell you why that Jesus is in this episode, honey? And he's like, no. But like, that's all I see. That's all I see in everything now. I challenge whoever listens to that episode to send me a DM of your like scariest movie, because I bet you I can go and watch it and I will find Christ in it somehow.
I love that. Everywhere. I love that. Yeah, and that's really the glasses we should put on and see him everywhere and see through those lenses. We would be living in such a different world. It's such a shame that.
But you get to do that anyways. You get to do that. And if you do that, it rubs off on the people around you. And that's where I think they got it wrong with the monasteries, is that they go off. And that's what a mystic Christian is like, you're mixing like meditation and contemplative. You're having those revelations. Like, my routine going full force as a mystic Christian is I wake up and do 45 minutes of meditation. I take my daughter to school. Well. Yeah, I walk along the river. I get download after download. Read. I spend hours reading every day and like reflecting back and forth with ChatGPT, because she's me now. Yeah. Even though she sounds like a man, and that's a bit off-putting. But
love that, Jessie. So before we go, I want to ask you 2 more questions. How do you co-create with God, with Christ in your business today? What does this mean to you to co-create with God?
How do I co-create with God? It really, well, at this point, I feel like he's creating and I'm just throwing it out there. I don't even know.
He's the CEO, right?
He's the CEO. I've surrendered fully, to be completely honest. And that took a lot. So if you're asking for the average entrepreneur, I don't think it's necessarily that you have to have Christ in your message, right? And I think that's where it's always been off-putting to me, is that how I see the book of Revelation is there are people, the ones that are sealed are here to hold that frequency and even like a guide. Whereas like the multitude are the ones that are maybe half awake. Like they realize you have to live in love all the time. They might even be Christians, but they are choosing love over fear in 99% of their moments. We're atoning until the day we die, really, but they're choosing love all the time.
So true. So true.
I think that there's, to a certain extent, there are some people that are going to be sealed. There's some people like me and like you that are called to be loud and have Christ in everything. But in terms of what does that look like for the average entrepreneur, I think it looks like such amazing, beautiful embodiment that even when you're not trying, you are sharing Christ's message in everything you do.
Love that. Such a beautiful response. And so true. And it made me think of, how a lot of Christians condemn the new age, or new spirituality movement as demonic. But honestly, I see more love in those movements, and like more support from people, understanding, compassion, more embodiment of Jesus Christ's teaching and the teachings in the new age than in actual Christianity, which is crazy.
It is crazy.
Food for thought. Food
There are a
for thought.
few that are okay. We're okay, you know?
Yeah, we're okay. We're
Yeah.
okay. We're okay. And we're spreading this message, and hopefully, this will open the eyes for a lot of people out there. And one last advice for anyone that is afraid to pivot in not only in business, but maybe in life, like rebrand themselves, reinvent themselves, because we've done it. I've done it multiple times. I'm sure you've done it as well. What would be one piece of advice for someone that wants that but is completely paralyzed by fear?
Let's bring it back to a little human design and a little neuroscience, a little nervous system regulation. Is that
Love that. Yes.
when you are doing something that you don't want to be doing, you will call in other things that you do. Everything starts to feel like a chore. The longer I stayed stuck in the thing that I had already outgrown, the more everything felt horrible. The more I felt disconnected from my family, the more I felt disconnected from things that used to bring me joy, going to the gym, everything. Like the more I pushed myself to do something that was a hell no, the more it affected everything.
So true. So true. And I can totally relate because you feel it. You feel it. And even if you are on a stress fight or flight mode, it gets to a point where you kind of like break down. But if you were in tune with your intuition, with God's guidance, you would see the signs, you would hear the voice telling you to shift, to pivot, to reinvent yourself because it's okay. Right? We're always evolving, not only as humans, but like our spirits are eternal, multi-dimensional beings that are always evolving. So are we. Jessie, thank you so much. This was such an interesting conversation. I'm so excited to share it with everyone. Before we go, where can people find you online?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram at I am Jessie Cae, which is Jessie and CAE, or they can find me on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And my podcast is called From Within She Rises.
Love the name. I will be adding the links to the show notes and YouTube description if you're watching on YouTube. And thank you so much to everyone, to all the listeners, viewers. I hope that this episode really opened up your mind, that you learned new things just like I did as well. And that once again, you're ready to bring God into your business. As Jessie said, you don't have to talk about it openly. You can keep it intimate, personal, but as long as you have this grounding, this foundation of love in everything you do in your business, you can make miracles happen and beautiful things happen in your life. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.